How does one begin to tell the tale of a country deeply rooted in its grand customs and traditions of embarking upon social gatherings and merriment that connect friends and family over a flavorful pint? The country of Ireland lives in the shadow of one of the greatest global beer brands to ever be created. But we'll get to this more in a few minutes. Just so we're clear, this video is showcasing the Republic of Ireland, and largely excludes Northern Ireland. If you're from Northern Ireland, or just have an interest or an affinity towards it, we promise to showcase it in a future video. Let's go back in time to an Ireland less populated and sophisticated as the one we know well today. It is thought through archaeological evidence that brewing in Ireland dates back well over 5,000 years. The country's fertile soil and abundance of rain makes the entire island perfect for growing exceptional barley. Like most Northern European countries, the original forms of beer would have been different from typical styles we're familiar with today. The use of hops would not become popular in Ireland until around the 18th century. Ancient forms of Irish ale would be closer related to gruit. As discussed in previous episodes, gruit beer uses an herb mixture for bittering and flavoring. It is believed that the country's patron saint, St. Patrick, famous for his missionary work in bringing Christianity to Ireland, was an avid beer drinker, with evidence to suggest that he even had his very own personal brewer. I'm sure most North Americans are more familiar with St. Patrick for the modern-day celebrations that are held on his ceremonial day. Green beer, anyone? The Anglo-Norman invasion of Ireland. For better or for worse, and I think most Irish would be more sympathetic to the latter, Ireland has been connected one way or another to its neighbouring island, England. From the Anglo-Norman invasion in 1169 up until 1922, Ireland found itself connected to its eastern neighbour. And with its troubles and injustices, the tumultuous relationship did breed communal interest in the production and consumption of beer. When Irish brewers did begin to add hops to their traditional brews, it was imported English hops they would have utilized. Like many facets of technology in what we may refer to as Western civilization, beer production really took on a new identity at the time of the Great Industrial Revolution. The small independent brewers would need to compete with the macro behemoth factories built to produce quantities of beer that had never been produced before in history. One of the first large commercialized breweries was created in the early 1700s in the town of Kilkenny, a popular and internationally recognized beer that still exists to this day, Smithwick's. Close to 50 years later, in 1759, a young entrepreneurial-minded man, Arthur Guinness, signed a 9,000-year lease for the St. James Gate Brewery in the nation's capital of Dublin. After a decade of Arthur Guinness's creation, the brewery became international, shipping barrels of ale to the English market. It would not be until 1778 that the brewery first began to brew the symbolic beer style that is synonymous with the profound Guinness brand, the porter. Traditionally an English beer creation, with the oldest written documentation dating the style back to 1721 in London, the style seems to have migrated across to Ireland by the 1760s. The creation of the porter was one of the first beer styles that could be aged at the brewery to which it was created, allowing for the final product to be dispatched directly to the drinking establishments, ready to be consumed immediately by thirsty clientele. This sense of mass-scale production was a trend that Guinness mastered in the late 18th century, and retained all the way up until today. By the time Arthur Guinness's death in 1803, the brewery's output was over 20,000 barrels, heroically sizable for the time. In 1997, Guinness merged with Grand Metropolitan in a £24 billion merger. The new company took on a brand new legal name, Diageo. In 2020, Guinness was valued at $3.8 billion and stands as one of the most recognizable beer brands in the entire world. The 21st century. Like most corners of the globe, it's difficult for micro and craft breweries to compete with the exorbitant marketing budgets and lower price point of macro breweries. Typical macro lagers still rule the roost. Believe it or not, Heineken is the largest selling beer in Ireland, not Guinness. Throughout the last 200 years, the growth and decline of breweries in Ireland has been drastic. At the start of the 1800s, there were over 200 breweries in the country. This number would shrink all the way down to 8 by 1960. Into the 21st century, Ireland's craft beer industry has exploded. In 2018, it's been recorded that there were close to 75 Irish craft breweries in operation. However, old habits die hard, as the plethora of craft beer represented only about 3% of total beer sales. Like any David and Goliath tale, one hopes that the underdog rises to the occasion to chip away gradually at the dominant competitor for a sufficient period of time in order to prevail. As we emerge from the global pandemic, a period that has had catastrophic consequences on small businesses around the globe, only time will tell as to what the future holds for the Irish and their love for beer. Be sure to subscribe and check out our next episode, where we travel beyond the European continent to visit the colossal South American nation of Brazil. Thanks very much for watching, and remember, craft beer is here.